You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey guys, welcome back to Cards to the Moon. This is episode 112. My name is Clark from 5 Card Guys on Instagram and 5cardguys.com. Co-hosting with me, as usual, is Hyung of Integrity Sports Cards and John, who is Trade You at Recess. All right, off the top today, Hyung accomplished something really cool last week, and I'll just throw it to you right away, Hyung. Do you mind sharing what that was?
Well, it's cool to me. I don't know if it's cool for other people.
No, it's cool. I think it's cool.
So I'm a huge Tatis fan, and I'm a huge Independence Day parallel fan, at least pre-2020, so 2019, 2018.
Right.
So I ended up cornering the PSA 10 market for the Tatis Independence Day 10, PSA 10. So there's 3. Yeah. And then, I ended up, I got the remaining 2 that were out there, made great deals on it, and then brought him home. So I thought it was a pretty awesome accomplishment. I'm very happy because for me, it's long term. And if you look at the pop report, like I'm a pop report nerd. Like I'll go and see, the pop reports, especially the super rare paper parallels.
Right.
I'm a sucker for paper parallels over chrome. So if you look at the kind of like PSA 10 in paper parallels, you're talking, there's 3 Independence Day, there's 2 Father's Day, which I have one. So I'm looking for the other one, and then 2 Mother's Day pink, and then 3 black, 0 clear, 0 camo. So that's pretty much the single digit PSA 10s. And 2019 was a year, especially the Independence Day parallel. Like I was a huge fan. 2018 was a big year for it. You had Soto, Acuna, Ohtani, Gleyber Torres, with the full card being Independence Day, not like the borders being stars like this year. And the last couple years, actually, it's been pretty disappointing, to be honest. So I think it's from a collection standpoint, from a hobbyist standpoint, Independence Days have always been kind of like no flippers will know about it. It's definitely a hobbyist card. So I'm happy that I had even access to getting it, because most of the times, with types of players like Tatis, it's impossible to get those types of cards, or even see one available for sale, because so many things have to happen. The people that own it have to be willing to sell it, and a lot of people with these cards are hobbyists first. So it's not about necessarily the profit. Especially if they're emotionally attached to it, they're not going to sell it, right? I still know people that are selling the Acuna Independence Day PSA 10 or the Acuna Black PSA 10 for 5 figures, and it's definitely not going to sell for that. But I don't think anybody's willing to sell it for cheaper, right? Because it's such a rare card, right? And I think if you do kind of like the extrapolation of data, and always the benchmark is the Mike Trout, you look at a BGS 9 black Topps update that sold for like $30K or something like that, or whatever it was. So the paper parallels do have like huge potential, in my opinion, in the very long term. So it's one of those things where I'm going to enjoy, I still believe in Tatis. He's still young, regardless of kind of like the adversity he's went through. I'm a strong believer in, that's what makes a kid a superstar at the end of the day. Jordan kind of dealt with a lot of adversity too. We just don't see it because, the internet wasn't around, but I'm sure there was a lot of, things that, if media got a hold of, it would make, any athlete look, non-desirable, right? So it's the emotion that, we always look at it, and it's a bad way to look at it. Look at it from a logistical. How good is Tatis? That at the end of the day, anybody says he says Tatis like sucks, like they don't know baseball. I don't care what you say. You might not like the character, you might have moral issues, but there's no denying that is real. Yeah, that he's one of the most exciting and talented players that modern baseball has seen. So yeah, overall, I'm super pumped. I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet, though. I have some work to do. I still have, the Father's Day. Then I get the full house. I got the the Indies and the
It's
Father's
gonna look
Day,
crazy.
and then you have 2 more Mother's Day, which I've never seen the PSA 10s yet. So
Yeah.
And I'm just looking at the PSA pop count. So there's 3 Independence Day, which you have all 3 now.
I have all 3 now. Yeah.
2 Father's Day, so you have one of those.
I have one of those.
already?
Yeah.
Okay, so you just need one, and then 2 Mother's Day.
2 Mother's Day. Yeah.
It hasn't appeared yet. Okay.
So I think that's a pretty cool collection.
How many blacks?
Blacks? There's 3. But like the cheapest you'll see is like probably
that's
20,
like
30,000 that people are asking for online, or on eBay at least.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's a cool story. So just briefly, like how did you get all 3? When did you get your first one, second one, and
The
third
first
one?
I overpaid because obviously it was kind of like before the whole steroid scandal kind of went down. It was I was looking forward for Tatis's return. After the motorcycle accident, and then I made a deal on one where I moved the card, so I wasn't in on the card as much, and then I was always in the market, especially in this downtime in this off season, saying, you know what, if a Tatis PSA 10 Independence Day ends up coming up, like, and it's cheap, I have to corner the market. It makes 0 sense not to, right? So it's like
the first one you got on eBay, or did you?
No, this was a private deal.
Okay.
So I at that time, that was the first one I've seen. I didn't see the other 2, right? And then I found the second one, which I'm glad I didn't deal with, because that was kind of like, it was still expensive. He still wanted a lot of money for it, so I kind of like held off on it, but. He ended up being the same eBay guy. He just doesn't know that I was the same person that wanted it before. I probably got it for like
today.
60% off. Yeah, too late.
And then the third one showed up on eBay.
Yeah, it showed up on eBay, and I
crazy.
because I got it for so cheap on the second one. I basically used, knowing that that's the third one. I was just like, what, last comp was pretty low, so I'll offer you this, and I offered him like $400 more than what I bought the second one for, and he accepted. So it was overall, it's
amazing.
It was the right move, because I was so high in the first one that I was just literally dollar cost averaging, and at the end of the day there's no more. So I'm happy with that. I think it's going to be a cool collection just in general. So
Yeah, good for you. Congrats.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, congrats, man. It's sick.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm trying to still complete my home field advantage insert cards.
Hey, that's a great set.
15, $20. I got to get back to that. I kind of was sidetracked for a bit, so I'll let you know when I complete that. All right, let's move on to hobby headlines. Okay, so I think this will be a fun segment today, because in light of the mix-up that happened with the 2022 National Treasures Babe Ruth 1/1 cut autograph booklet card, which, if you're hearing for the first time, the autograph that was in the card actually belonged to George Brett. That was a huge mix-up and one of the bigger error cards in recent memory. Anyway, that got a lot of collectors talking about things like quality control, and what I wanted to do is mention some other error cards, more recent error cards, and you tell me how big you think the error is from a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being a minor mistake, could happen to anyone, to 10 being a colossal one. Okay, so that'll be a fun segment. Why don't we start off with the Babe Ruth card with the George Brett auto? What do you give that from 1 to 10?
That was a 1/1?
Yes.
I'm giving this a 10. That can happen. Especially it's like the chase, and you get that card. And then, so what is it? Who is it? Who do you get? Do you get the Babe Ruth or George Brett? Do you get to keep the George Brett, or do you actually get it? So I think it's a big mistake, just because it was a pretty expensive card. It's a 1/1. So
yeah.
And I will say, before we say this, error cards aren't the same as in the 90s. People have to understand that. Like, people still use that as like, oh, error card, therefore it's $10,000. You know what I mean?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Right.
Whereas error cards before, in the 90s, that's what was the rarity. So they didn't have parallels, right? So it's like, we have parallels. So if a manufacturer creates a error card now, it's not like, it's not a good thing, I don't think.
No.
Just throwing it out there because some people still think, oh, this is an error card. It's like half printed, like they're like, this is worth way more now. It's like, no, it's not. It's like nobody wants that. It's a defect.
You don't know how many messages I get because actually one of my top pages on 5cardguys.com is my post on error cards.
Right.
And there are so many people just DMing me or messaging me. It's like, hey, I got an error card. How much is this worth? 99% of the time, it's worth $0.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like junk wax, and or a little bit after that. So, yeah, good point. Good point. So, Johnny, 1 to 10.
This one, what's funny is I could have sworn I saw a post that this was it wasn't real. I don't know what the truth is, but I think I saw a post where they were saying, "Oh, this was actually." This never happened. Or it was a hoax or something like that. Anyways, besides the point, we'll get to the bottom of that. If it really is true, this probably it's up there for one of the worst mistakes. Like, how could you? I mean, I'd have to imagine the Babe Ruth cut auto was the biggest card to come out of. And what did it come out of? What was it? Transcendent, or it was one of those
National
big
Treasures 2022.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Like you're I don't know what you're spending on a box. Like anywhere from $3,000 to $8,000 on a box, and one of the, if not the premier hit of that monster product. Yeah, that's just a mistake. That how could you make a mistake on a 1-of-1? Like how is that even possible? So
yeah, it's a big one.
I hope it's not true. Because that is a colossal mistake. It's on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 10.
Okay. With 3 10s, triple 10s, perfect score from our panel on Cards to the Moon. I think it's true because I heard somewhere that person who got it is already in contact with Panini, and they're trying to rectify the situation. So I don't know how they're going to do that. Like, do they have other cut autos of Babe Ruth lying around, and then it's like, here, take this one. I don't know how you remedy.
They're gonna have to go buy a Babe Ruth auto somehow,
or just give him
make it happen,
or just give him 10K. I think that's what it's going for. So, or the estimated amount. Okay, the rest aren't as big, I don't think, as the Babe Ruth George Brett huge mistake, but it's kind of funny nonetheless. All right, there's a Panini Spectra. Released 2 football cards. They're both patch cards. One of them was of Sauce Gardner, his rookie card he plays for the Jets.
Oh, right.
The patch was one of the Washington Redskins uniform patch, right? So,
right. Oh,
if you're not aware, the Washington football team is now called the Washington Commanders. So they had this old Redskins patch for a while, and I guess they just put it in this year's set. So that's a funny mistake. And then there's another one in that same, I guess, set. Bailey Zappi had his Patriots card. There's a patch in it that belonged obviously to the Miami Dolphins.
Right. I see it. I see those pictures. Oh man, that's another bad blunder by Panini, man. No matter what, like, you know what I mean? Yeah. These are little basic things that I think you need to make sure quality control catches, right? And somebody on the line has to catch that. Like, I know, like, because it gets released to us. First thing we see is that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, it's such a big standout. And it's not like, maybe the other cards that you're going to mention are of tops, but Panini's not looking good. And I just think in general, it just shows you kind of like they've been overmatched or, outperformed in the last few years. So it's definitely a big, and I don't know if these are numbered, so I wouldn't say this has to be a close to 10 as well for me. But obviously because it's not a 1-of-1, it's just a big mistakes that will, I guess, not make people happy. If I got that card, I wouldn't be happy. I wouldn't say, oh, it's so rare, it's an error card, and be all hyped about it and just say eBay 1-of-1.
Right.
Okay.
Is Sauce Gardner any good?
He's getting some buzz. He's getting some buzz.
His name is Sauce. He better be good.
I know, seriously.
He's got a good nickname.
That patch actually is kind of funny. I actually like
the Washington Redskins.
Yeah, because it's a wrong patch, but it's also an old patch that doesn't exist anymore. So I think that is kind of unique and funny and cool. I would. It doesn't. I'm not saying it looks good on Panini, but if I was a collector, if I was a Sauce Gardner collector, I would think that that's pretty cool for the collection.
Yeah.
But yeah, they should obviously. This is not giving them a pass by any means. That this is like overall in the grand scheme of things pretty unacceptable. But it just shows like to me, all of the challenges of what happened during COVID, and you can clearly see these manufacturers are having a really tough time getting these products together, trying their best to try to get it out and release it in some sense of, some good semblance of like timing. They're like, all of these products are months behind, if not almost a year behind.
Yeah.
So you can tell, you just, from the quality assurance that we've been seeing over the last little while, it looks so rushed. Like clearly a lot of this stuff is really, really rushed, and it shows in their products. So
yeah, this one's kind of up there for me too, just because of the Redskins patch. It's an old one.
It's funny,
and like that makes me think, like, do they just have old uniforms hanging around to put in new cards? A little bit concerning there. So
yeah,
I'm gonna say a 9, an arbitrary 9. All right,
it'd be fun if it was game used. You have to ask the question like, who wore this jersey?
Is it RG3?
Yeah, right.
All right, the third one, Johnny, you brought this to our attention. I almost forgot about this one. The Justin Herbert sticker autoed multi-relic card. There's 6 relics, I believe, but the one in the top right corner is a hat relic that says woman on it. So unless he wore a woman's cap or a hat, I don't know if that belonged to him, but yeah.
What card was that? I just need to see this.
I know. I've seen it a long time ago. One of the patches is basically the like
I'm gonna send it to you.
laundry tag from a hat, and it says like women's size 6 or something.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
I just sent it to you through the chat, so you can take a look.
Yeah,
let me take a look.
This
The top right corner, New Era woman.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, it just says women's.
Oh man, another Panini blunder.
Yeah.
Little stuff like this, just to me, it's not like the biggest, like, oh my god, end of the world, because that card is still a beautiful card. Like, it's a card, definitely a collector's card. It's a booklet, but yeah, stuff like that just kind of makes you question. It's like, man, like, how could this be worth so much money when that it's not game used? Or I don't know if they advertise it as game used, but when you're looking at patches, I think the whole thing is game used. Like you want game used if you can, right? So to me, it's kind of like, it's one of those things where it's just such a small error, but it's such a, like, for me, it would bug me. Yeah, just because it's like, that if it's a woman's tag, then it can't be game used, right? So
yeah.
Yeah.
I just sent you guys in the chat as well. It's very similar to the Justin Herbert mixed relic. Cole Anthony had a patch card. The hat relic says youth on it.
This is good.
Maybe he wore it as a kid. Maybe when he was a teenager.
But see, this doesn't make sense. So this is absolute memorabilia, the Cole Anthony. So it's a new era hat. So it's like, I don't remember basketball players wearing hats, right? Unless unless it's like a new era. Like, even then, it's like, I don't understand. It's like, why is there a new era hat tag? I don't know if it's from their 40 or like their new era line of hats,
right?
But it looks like it. But like, I don't understand why a basketball player would be wearing a new era hat. So, I'm telling you, man, Panini. These are all Panini. You're just sending Panini, man. It's like you have something against Panini. Is this Fanatic sponsored?
Well,
I'm giving these I'm gonna give these a 5. They're bad blunders, but at the same time they're so funny that they become like funny collector items. I think the Justin Herbert one especially, is that a 1/1? That looks like a 1/1 type of card.
It's pretty sweet.
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
but
like it looks like a huge card, but that one circulated. That one pretty viral. That card, I remember. Yeah. And for you to own a pretty funny viral error card, I think even Justin Herbert fans and collectors would probably want that card. So in a weird way, this is the one instance where an error card it could make it a little bit more valuable than it would have been. Going back to all of those 90 era cards. So, and the Cole Anthony card, like that card would literally be worth nothing. And then because it has that patch that it's such a funny error,
Right.
it would some Cole Anthony collector would probably be like, you know what, I want that thing.
For
Who has
sure.
it? I want it.
For sure. I agree.
Yeah.
It's worth more for sure now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you. It's more funny than anything. So I'll give it a 6 for me. Okay. I'm going to turn to baseball. I'm not just picking on Panini. This isn't Fanatic sponsored. I know we joked about that, but there was a Colson Montgomery 1/1. I believe it's a Black Mojo refractor on his 2022 Bowman Chrome autograph card, except the card wasn't signed. There's a blank and the 1/1 autograph where the 1/1 autograph space should have been. So, what do you think?
Definitely a quality control issue now. Like, again, like this is something that quality control needs to stay on top of. I don't mind it as much. It could still be signed and authenticated by Topps, which could fix the problem in my opinion. But yeah, it's definitely, it's not that it's unacceptable. What are we saying if it's unacceptable? What happens? It's like, I don't think it's at that point, but like, it's more kind of like, I don't think it's as bad as like the patches, for instance, right? Because to me, that's like it seems like you don't know what you're doing, or the people making these cards have no clue who's on the card in the first place. Whereas this is kind of like, it might have been mixed up where, Colson Montgomery didn't sign these and he sent it back and he didn't sign that, a couple of them or whatever, right? And that's on the player, right? As opposed to the quality control in terms of the production. So this isn't as bad in my opinion. I've seen it before. Obviously it's frustrating, but I'm sure they could get that signed.
True. It's yeah, you could fix it.
Yeah, so I'll say a 5 on this.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna still. It's not the worst blunder in the world, but I'm gonna give it a 9.
Whoa.
For it to be like a 1/1, and a company to make a mistake on a 1/1.
Right.
Like you can you can make a mistake on a random base card, base auto or something, but don't make a mistake on a 1/1.
Sure.
Like that is unacceptable. Honestly, I think a great flip in the PR department for this is Topps to fly out the owner of that card to meet Colson Montgomery in person and get that autographed and film that process. I think that would be the best way to flip this around in a positive way. Something like that. You could always make a negative.
You need to work for Topps PR.
Yeah, Topps, you should be listening, man.
That's a great idea.
I don't know. That might bankrupt you because they mess up so much that they're gonna have to fly in a lot of people.
You know what? I think that's such a great idea that they should just do it on purpose. Just like leave some of these cards blank auto. Yeah. And then if you get that, that's your ticket. You can go
that's your
get
ticket?
get the autograph signed in person. Amazing idea.
There you go.
But then it would be an IP auto, and how the hobby feels about that one.
No, you still put in the space, and you have Topps
certified
Topps
issue?
official there. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's still certified. They're just doing it right in front of you.
Yeah. You're welcome, Topps.
That reminds me of the Max Muncy.
Right.
Remember, the other Max Muncy.
The A's
I guess that's.
Muncy.
Yeah, it's a sticker auto, so I can understand how that could happen, right?
Right.
But,
yeah.
Still funny nonetheless. Yeah, I'm gonna give this an A too, just because of the 1/1 factor that like Johnny mentioned. I think any 1/1, essentially you got one job. Okay, whatever's necessary for that card,
exactly.
You got to do it. You got to be careful. You got to have that quality control there. All right, I actually got one question from one of our listeners, and I didn't bring this up in the show notes, but I'm just gonna talk about it now, and then I'm really curious to see what you guys think. If you go to the chat, I'm going to send you this Mike Trout, his 2009 Bowman Chrome Draft Prospect Orange Refractor numbered to 25. So it is the card. So I got the email from Sleepy in Seattle. He actually messaged us for another question in a previous episode. So thank you for bringing this to our attention. But there's the Mike Trout 2009 Bowman Chrome Draft Orange Refractor card that's on Goldin right now, up for auction. It's at $28,000, and it looks fine if you just kind of look at it, other than the BAS slab, the Beckett Authentication Services slab, right? But if you look at it closer, if you read the details, the description of that card, it's actually, there was a signed version of it and it was wiped clean for whatever reason, and Mike Trout re-signed it.
Oh, interesting.
Really?
Is that why
So-
that's that label?
The BAS. I'm guessing that's why. And, you know, even if you look at the autograph, right? If you're familiar with Mike Trout's signature,
Yeah.
like his regular 2009 Bowman Chrome doesn't
have
look like that.
Yeah.
The squiggly at the end there, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it looks a
yeah.
little bit different. This is more obviously a newer signature.
And
by
the
Mike
27, I think he didn't do that often on his 2009 Bowman Chromes. I think that I actually had that similar autograph on that 2011 update 1010 I had. But
Oh,
yeah,
really?
it's
Okay.
it's new. It's definitely newer. Yeah,
Trout. Right.
but that's messed
So-
up.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not an error card, obviously, but it was like, you know.
So
the
it was
original
wiped-
signature was wiped,
wiped.
and then a new.
It was wiped.
I
That's
guess
what they
that's
said?
that's.
Can you wipe it after all those years? Is that possible?
Please note, this is what the description says. Please note that the card's original signature was removed, but the card was later
Removed.
re-signed by Mike
Yeah,
Trout.
so
with
I-
the new
I- I
signature.
guarantee
So
you
it was
wiped.
a smudgy autograph or whatever.
I guarantee you they'd probably try cleaning the card. It smudged it. So they literally smudged it off
Right.
and got it re-signed.
So, I guess the
Ooh.
question from our listeners, like, what do we think of this?
Well,
Oh,
there's
that's a
only
good
25 in the world, so there's that.
Right.
It is
Right.
actually signed by Mike Trout. It is a Bowman Chrome Orange Refractor, but it feels like kind of like, ah, man, do I want to touch this? It's diseased, man. It's like it's like not like pure.
Right.
Yeah, it's a tough one for me, but it is an orange. I think if you get a deal on it, I think that's the play because there's 25 of them, and an orange refractor is crazy. To even see one of those, right? So I don't love the fact that it's been wiped, you know, and that's what I'm guessing it has been. Is like you probably could get that autograph off with any, you know, type of substance that might, you know, be able to erase the Sharpie, and then they could literally sign on top of it, right? So I don't know if that's the story. If that's the case, then I'd be pretty disappointed, to be honest. But at the same time, it is a holy grail card.
Yeah.
Right.
And 28,000 for an orange refractor seems cheap for a Mike Trout orange.
So
right?
that's what it ended.
No, it's still there's
Oh,
still
yeah,
a few
I don't
days
think
left.
it
So we'll
will
see what it
definitely
Yeah, it
goes
looks
for.
like there's still a week to go.
But I mean, I want to add this before you say anything, John. Like, I don't know if this rumor is true, but Sleepy in Seattle wrote that there's a rumor that for the last several years, Trout no longer signs his rookie card.
That's true.
Is that true?
That is true.
So I don't know if that plays a factor into, you know, paying a premium for this card nonetheless. I don't know.
This is interesting because it isn't pure, it isn't OG, but let's say you were presented this card or the old version of this card that has a faded looking auto. Let's say it wasn't even smudged. Let's say it just got faded in the sun or something.
Right.
It looks awful, right? And that can happen on some of these chromium
Yep.
surfaces, right? Which one would you rather own? So it's weird because one is pure and one is not, but now you're talking Mike Trout hand signed bold auto. So it's kind of a funny case study, but I mean, regardless of the debate, this is gonna have a stigma attached. If you should have 100 serious buyers on this because of the story behind it, and it shouldn't be that negative. It's not that bad, but there is some sort of story behind it which doesn't make it OG and it doesn't make it pure. You know, of the 100 buyers, maybe 50, maybe 60, maybe 70 back out,
Right.
right? And they'll be like, Hyung, I'll come back in if the price is like 50% of a regular orange or 30% of a regular orange. Okay, I'm taking the risk there. So I think because of this stigma, regardless, I firmly believe that this is going to sell a lot less or like a significant discount from any of the other oranges at a BGS 9,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate. But I mean, if you really want to think of it from a fan perspective and not like a fickle collector, this is probably the better version of the previous old one. So,
Right.
I mean, from a fan perspective, it should be a better card. But
Yeah.
we know the hobby is a bit fickle, so it's not going to be. I don't think that's going to be the case.
Yeah. No, that's a good case study because if you look at his other 2009 Bowman Chrome, like his auto is not the greatest.
No.
Like he used a really bad marker that day. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's a little streaky on some of them, or yeah. So like obviously the signature is way better on this orange refractor card that we're seeing, but I'm a purist. I can't touch it. Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm a
right?
purist, so I'm
See?
not doing it. But if I wanted one for my own PC, then for sure it's a great deal. Like, you know, you're not going to get an orange refractor for whatever this is going to sell for.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So, but if you even had a little bit of thought that you want to flip it or you want to sell it down the road, I'm staying away.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, thanks Sleepy in Seattle for bringing that to our attention. It'll be interesting to see what it ultimately sells for. There are, as of this recording, I think it's a week from now or Wednesday, so less than a week from now. 5 days left, so we'll see what it goes for. All right, good stuff. Let's go on now to our next segment. We're just calling Buy, Sell, Hold. All right, it's an oldie but a goodie, and with the Super Bowl coming up this weekend, I wanted to throw out 4 elite QBs that have been to the Super Bowl or that are going to the Super Bowl, and ask you guys at this time, would you buy, sell, or hold their cards, right? So let's start with Jalen Hurts of the Philadelphia Eagles, the guy who's burned me all season, the guy I told everyone to sell, and here he is in the Super Bowl. So what are you doing if you have Jalen Hurts?
Man, this is essentially is like, who do you have in the finals, right? Like, do you have Hurts or Mahomes? Like,
Yeah,
you know, and
the
that's
favorites.
but that's the scary stuff, because it's like, if you think Philadelphia is gonna win, then, you know, it might be hey, I'm gonna purchase. I will say I was tempted to buy a Mahomes this week, because I thought his was priced. Some of his numbered stuff was pretty cheap, so it's like I was tempted on that side. With Jalen Hurts, I still think his prices are reasonable. They're not crazy, and if he does win a Super Bowl, I think the prices will go pretty decent, and then it'll obviously drop, right? So for me, I'm a sell on Hurts, especially now. He's proved this year that, you know, he delivered, right? So at the end of the day, his pricing has been constantly going up, but I still think it's not like crazy unreasonable, his pricing right now. So
Right.
yeah. So because he's not overpriced, I think there might be opportunity, but I'm still a sell on Hurts.
Okay. Sell for Hyung.
Yeah, sell for me too. I think the way Clark, you're right. Hurts has also burned me quite a bit, so I may not be the best person to listen to, but I think this is a great chance to sell even pre-Super Bowl. There could be a lot of doubt, man. Like, as much as it seems like Mahomes is the favorite, you know, the one to pick, it seems like it's going to be a shoe-in. I think there's probably going to be a lot of doubt because Mahomes is not 100%, and he didn't look uber dominant in the last little bit. He's kind of scraped by, like he played some tough football games. So I think there's going to be some belief that Hurts could get it done. So I think riding off of that belief, normally I think it would be complete Mahomes sweep in what people's minds. So I think there's a great opportunity here, but it's tough too, because I think Hyung is also right in that Hurts isn't really garnering the respect that he should price wise. So it does seemingly appear to be a bit cheaper than it should be. So it is a tough call. I would say it kind of goes both ways, but I think it should be I think given how underrated his value is, and he made it all the way this far, kind of signifies to me, unless he wins, you want to take that chance that he's going to win. If he loses, I could see his card value dropping way back down to, like, you know, normal Jalen Hurts value. So I think if you don't want to take that risk of the Super Bowl win, I would say sell.
Yeah. I'm nothing if I'm not consistent. Sell Jalen Hurts. So that means congratulations, Eagles. You are going to win the Super Bowl. So, you're welcome, Eagles fans. Jalen Hurts' value is going to go through the roof after the Sunday when everything is said and done. So, yeah, but I'm still selling for all the reasons you guys mentioned. I'm cashing out as soon as possible. Okay, his competitor for the Super Bowl, of course, Patrick Mahomes. Are you buying, selling, or holding?
Oh, so yeah, I guess I was one guy too early. I was honestly looking at Mahomes because I thought, you know what, there's some good opportunities out there. I think some of his higher end stuff obviously is super expensive still, and a lot of people aren't willing to let that go. But a lot of like PSA 9 numbered optics, you know, which we all love the optics, especially color.
I think I saw that.
I honestly, I was about to pull the trigger on that on the blue optic. Number to 199 is a PSA 9. That was pretty reasonable, right? And
it's a nice card.
It's a beautiful card, yeah. So I think there's good opportunities like that, but I obviously think like his contenders autos, his optic autos are crazy. You have no chance to get them. So I'm a hold with Mahomes if it's the higher end stuff, but some of his, I wouldn't say lower end, but like the disrespected optic, PSA 9 numbered cards. I think it's a good buying opportunity, to be honest, because if he does win another Super Bowl, I think because of Brady's retirement, I think it's like kind of like who's the next official Tom Brady, right? And Mahomes has one Super Bowl. It could be 2 Super Bowls. He's still young. Obviously, like there's not a lot of quarterbacks with multiple Super Bowls. That's the thing. It's like Brady is in an elite camp with 7 Super Bowl championships, and Mahomes, being that young and capturing a second, I think there's a lot of upside to it, especially playing against Philadelphia. So I think Mahomes is a buy in certain cards, but obviously the downside is if Jalen Hurts does win, I think Mahomes market might take a little, beating a bit, but if you're bullish on Mahomes, I don't think it's a bad chance, as opposed to the opposite, like me doing the same thing for Hurts. I think there's a lot more downside on that play than Mahomes, right? So yeah, I would say I'm a buy for the most part on Mahomes on the right card.
Yeah, understood.
Oh man, this is this is a bit tricky. With Brady gone, obviously Mahomes has the reins now, right? As like the next, like this is sort of his league as the main show quarterback. This is what his third Super Bowl appearance in the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, he's always there. Yeah.
So he's clearly showing everybody how elite he is. On the one hand, I think it's seemingly a very easy, at worst hold, maybe somewhat an easy sell. But Mahomes is one of these sort of like long-term football hold type of players, like a Tom Brady. I think the belief is going to just continue to get stronger and stronger that he is well on his way in a trajectory of one of the great quarterbacks in the league, as long as he doesn't some sort of major injury. So, it's during the Super Bowl, as crazy as it sounds because of the hype, it's during the Super Bowl that some of these cards come out. That's another thing, right? Like there might be cards that never show up that all of a sudden start appearing, right? So I think for the right card, I could 100% understand a buy. I'm gonna go with hold because I'm just so on the fence on this one.
Yeah.
But I'm just making points for both sides. I think there's a reason to sell. I think there's a definitive reason to buy. But because I can't really make up my mind, I'm going to say hold.
Okay. This is going to be split 3 ways. I'm saying sell, believe it or not, because Mahomes is like a tier to his own, right? I think a lot of people will agree. Like he's in his own tier right now in terms of how good he is, but he doesn't seem to be getting the respect that he deserves fully, right? So, and yeah, you're right. The high end cards, of course, are going to be out of reach for most people. But I'm going to take the risk if I had one to sell, cash out during the Super Bowl hype. But I just feel like it's going to go down, just because Mahomes makes it look so regular. Like the way he plays games, like people are like, oh, it's just Mahomes. It's kind of like ultimately Brady in the same way, right? Like just he just wins, and then it just kind of gets boring that he wins all the time. So I think there'll be opportunities to buy back in the middle of next season, and then maybe the Super Bowl right now, paying a premium for it is not the best time. So if I had it, I sell, and then I just try to buy back in next season, maybe hopefully buy a better card to hold longer term, because I believe in Mahomes long term. Like football's a violent game, but QB, like he has his ankle issues, but more or less he's been able to stay healthy. And you'd like to see that in a quarterback, someone that uses, his agility and who's smart and could just stay healthy. That's a big part of having, good long career in the NFL. So that's my plan. It might totally backfire. He might win the Super Bowl and it's a new baseline and I'll never get a Mahomes card, but I'm going to take that risk. Hyung, you already mentioned this. You're always one step ahead. Tom Brady, now that he's officially retired, second retirement, he's done. What are you doing with his cards?
Man, I think high-end Brady is a hold. I think some of his base stuff like Topps Chrome might be a sell, just because the higher pop stuff. A lot of people are gonna say, "Oh, he's retiring now. His card prices are going up. Got to get in." But then it only works on the lower pop stuff, right?
Right. Bowman Chrome.
Yeah, like exactly. Even the Bowman Chrome, I'd say that's more of a higher pop compared to his auto, like a PSA 10 Bowman Chrome. That's kind of like the standard card, kind of like the LeBron Topps Chrome base. So it's kind of like the similar feel, I think, with that, where I just seen someone list it for $13K or best offer at PSA 10, right? So it's like, to me, I feel like that's a trap. Unless you don't really care where you buy it this year and you're just long term, you're just gonna lock it in the safe. But I think you probably could make a profit on this kind of uptick, but then just remember, Brady cards, even for us, you try buying a Brady card, any relevant Brady, even a Bowman Chrome PSA 10, it's tough to pull the trigger on cards like that, right? So it would be tough to cash out on Brady, I think, if you have crazy cards, unless it's life-changing money, right? So I'm a hold on Tom Brady, sell the lower end stuff if the cheaper stuff. Yeah.
For any collection, at some point, it'd be smart to have a Tom Brady. He's kind of like these Mickey Mantle type of investments. As long as the sports card industry is around, this is the type of card that is not moving or you're not really going to lose too much money on. With that being said, I think Tom Brady, with the recent news, if we do take it that it's the real deal this time, he's not going to have many chances now at volatility, right? I think it's going to be this news. I think it's going to be the announcement of the Hall of Fame. And then that's pretty much it, unless he does something really wacky on social media or something funny happens. So you're going to have very limited opportunities to take advantage of volatility from here on in. This is probably one of two known left. So I would say might as well take advantage and be able to sell, especially if you own something that is not ridiculously rare, that you're not going to have a chance to get back at some point. If you're in some pretty liquid stuff, this is a great chance to sell.
Yeah, I'm aligned with you guys. Anything non-numbered, I'm selling. Taking the news of his retirement, I'm pretty sure it's for real this time. And down the line, if I could nab a numbered card, or you make a couple of really good flips and you can get an auto card, that's a vault card right there, right? You just keep it in the vault. So that's what I'm doing with Brady as well. But exactly what you guys said. Hold for the higher end, sell for the lower, or the ones that are more quantity available. Okay, last one. Joe Burrow, almost made it again to the big game, and
so close.
Earned a lot of respect along the way. The Bengals showed a lot of people. Joe Burrow, what do you guys think?
I'm a sell on Burrow until he wins a Super. I think his prices are overpriced because of the whole Herbert and Joe Burrow hype coming into like the whole COVID pandemic, because that was the kind of chase. So Herbert and I think Joe Burrow has had an explosion in prices already. Kind of like same thing as Zion and, Ja. These are kind of like your typical characters that were overhyped. Bobby Witt Jr., Jason Dominguez, like all these guys are overpriced still, but they command the hobby hype, right? So that's the kicker, is like, when are people going to start giving up on guys until they start winning, right? So at the end of the day, Burrow again doesn't have a Super Bowl, right? So it's like, it's the same thing. It's like, until I think he proves himself, his prices are overhyped. So I think he's a sell until, you rebuy. And then, Brady's 1.7, right? It's like, if you're long term on that, then I think it's a smart move. But I think Joe Burrow in general is just overpriced in terms of, and I think he has a phenomenal career. Not saying that. He might be a rebuy in when the price is right. Right. So
yeah.
Joe Burrow to me is a interesting case study, because we always talk about that 3-year window where it's super hyped. So he's in the tail end of that window. So I still think he's super hyped. Kind of like what Hyung was saying, his prices are still kind of a little ballooned. But he also did turn that corner of not just being hype, but legitimately convincing people he's the real deal. So this, similar to Josh Allen last year, I think Josh Allen last year proved to a lot of people, not just hype anymore, he's the real deal. And Joe Burrow, even for me, I saw enough. I was like, okay, I think he convinced a lot of people it's not just hype, he's the real deal. Like, he's here to play. He is a big time gamer. He performs when the lights are on. So that's gonna make investing. That's gonna, a lot of buyers are gonna be very confident when they put money into Joe Burrow. But at the same time, again, he's still in the hype window. So he's in the hype window, but he convinced everybody. So he's one of these, like, it's like an ultra hype moment. So I think because of that, it's certainly a sell. Take advantage. Burrow is also in the new age of super ultra modern, whatever we want to call it. So he's just got so many, like Jalen Hurts. There's just so many rookie cards and
Right.
so many different things to chase. So I don't think most people are going to be sad about. There's going to be opportunity to get back into some nice cards. So I don't think it's a big deal. So for somebody like Joe Burrow, yeah, definitely a sell.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be a boring segment. It's the sell sweep, because I really like Burrow. I think he's legit, especially after this year. And I'm always
You're the biggest believer of the three of us,
yeah,
for sure.
I'm always looking to buy, but like Hyung says, like, they're all more than I want to pay for what he's done.
Right.
But I'm a believer. So, like, if I had it, I'm selling for that reason. But I'm always going to look to rebuy, and on the belief that Joe Burrow will win at least one Super Bowl. I'm calling it out right now. He's going to win one Super Bowl for sure. So
I could see it.
yeah. So we'll see if it's next year or the year after, or never. But I just like how he handles the game. So big believer of Joe Burrow, but yeah, his prices are a little bit too high. All right, yeah, we'll do another buy, sell, hold segment in the future, different theme, depending on what's going on in the world of sports. Okay, let's end off our episode as we normally do with pick one. And if you haven't been with us on this podcast, this is when we each choose two cards or two players, and we debate which one we would rather invest in. All right, so I'm going to throw it to Hyung as usual to start things off.
All right, I was gonna talk about Soto a bit because I was looking for Soto, but I'm gonna switch it up on you guys. I know I gave it on the pre-production notes. I'm gonna just switch it up something easier,
Okay.
because like I'm putting the scenario. Let's just say a guy like Juan Soto or Shohei Ohtani. It's like you don't have the option to buy into their regular card, like your Topps Chrome, your Bowman's Chrome.
Right.
I'm talking about secondary investment sets, long term. Topps Finest versus Bowman's Best. Because I honestly love ripping both. I think if you ever have a chance to rip Topps Finest, I think you'll enjoy it because it's a smaller checklist. There's a lot of autos, or there's two autos that you pull in one hobby box. Bowman's Best actually I believe has two autos per per master box, which is 4 total autos, right? So
Yeah.
the rip on both are phenomenal because of the shorter checklist. So I always loved these secondary sets that get no love because you're not pulling 700 out of 350 checklists, people on the checklist. You're pulling way smaller checklists, so the odds of you getting a relevant auto becomes a lot higher.
Right.
So if I'm looking at an investment, let's just say a Shohei or a Juan Soto's Bowman Best. Juan doesn't have a Topps Finest, for instance. Shohei does. So it's like, would you rather invest in a Bowman's Best or a Topps Finest?
Good one.
That is a good one. You should save your other 1v1 too. It's a good one.
Oh, were you because you're gonna answer? We'll
Keep
do that
it in-
last.
yeah, yeah,
we'll do
yeah.
that next week. Yeah, because
keep it in the back pocket.
okay, yeah, I'm interested in that one.
You know, for me, I have a personal sentiment to Topps Finest. I love OG Topps Finest, and I want to badly say Topps Finest here because my bias is coming out, but I can't deny. I think the market to me is clearly taking Bowman's Best a lot more seriously. Topps Finest in the ultra modern world, as much as I want to believe Topps Finest is really good, I still think it's kind of taken too lightly. Like, I think a lot of people kind of just brush it off as it's like a joke product. It's not really taken seriously. It gets really, really severely disrespected, in my opinion. Bowman's Best was sort of on that same path, but I think in recent months, years, whatever you want to call it, maybe it's, Scotty B's influence, but I think Bowman's Best is there's some serious eyes on Bowman's Best. So I think Bowman's Best of the two is kind of coming out of the mud and being taken seriously. So I'm going with Bowman's Best.
Interesting.
Yeah, this is a good one. I like it. Good comps for both. I think my bias is also going to come into play here. I've only ripped Bowman's Best. Like, I've never had a chance to rip Topps Finest. Maybe I would change my mind if I did. But I always enjoy Bowman's Best. I love the inserts. The auto on card is nice. Topps Finest is on card auto too, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, they're both? Okay. So, but yeah, Bowman's Best, it seems like, you got your vets in it as well. And I kind of like the mix. It's kind of fun that way. So my personal bias is leaning towards Bowman's Best, but that's only because I'm not as familiar with ripping Topps Finest.
We're gonna rip some Topps Finest. Gonna change your mind.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I actually ripped the box of Topps Finest 2022. I pulled a variation O'Neal Cruz Green Wave. I think it's out of 99. So it was a good auto. I was happy with it, but no, this is interesting because I think, John, you hit it. Like, Topps Finest has kind of like more of the history, especially with even basketball at the time. Topps Finest was huge, and then for us as hobbyists, like, we always talk about what's the Topps Finest, baseball's finest. Those cards, the old school,
right.
The baseball's finest design, the insert.
The retro.
That's such a old OG card as a hobbyist for me, because that's the cards I remember when I was in the 90s, right? So for me, Topps Finest has a huge history. I do own more Bowman's Best. Like, I have a Bowman's Best Julio Rodriguez Gold Auto, for instance, that I love. Right? It's a great card. And I think it's a better investment. But as a hobbyist, I think Topps Finest has a lot more, attachment to it for me. But from an investment standpoint, I think Bowman's Best is going to win from an investment standpoint overall. But I do definitely enjoy Topps Finest just as much. Yeah.
Especially Topps Finest flashback.
Yeah, the flashback finest moments. There's like all these different awesome inserts that bring back kind of like that childhood, right? So so I'm gonna go with Bowman's Best too in this case, but I do enjoy both, so that's why I want to bring it up, see what you guys thought.
Right.
Yeah, good one. I like it. Johnny, you're up.
All right. In the spirit of being disrespected and or underrated, we're gonna go two NBA studs that I feel are heavily disrespected and or underrated in the hobby. Clearly, in the real league, they are absolute studs. They're absolute studs in fantasy. If you play fantasy basketball, we're gonna go with 2018 Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Prism Silver PSA 10, a pop of just over 500, 539, versus the 2020 Tyrese Halliburton Prism Silver PSA 10, pop 118. Both go for around 400 a piece, give or take.
Okay. So there's the pop counts in play.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Hopefully that'll sway a bit of our Canadian bias.
Yeah. Is it enough to sway my Canadian bias is the question. And the answer to that is no, it isn't, because I'm sticking with my boy, SGA. I also like the 28 Prism set better for whatever reason. Like, a lot of good cards came out of that, obviously, right? Like, isn't that the Luka year?
Yep.
Right?
It is.
Trey, of course.
Trey. Michael Porter.
Well, MPJ's.
Yeah.
Well, why are you putting
Maybe I shouldn't have said
MPJ
that.
in the same company as Luka, Trey, and SGA?
I'm sorry. My mistake.
No, but I just like the 2018 set. I just think it's one of the better ones in modern years. So despite the pop count being, 3x, I don't know why the PSA or the pop count would be lower for Halliburton. Maybe
I think
Gem?
for that, I think for Halliburton, there's been a recent spike, so I don't think as many cards are submitted because of the year. He's a 2020, right? So majority of his stuff would have been not worth it to send to PSA at the time. Okay. So I think a lot more people are sending Halliburton now.
Okay.
Right.
So
also a funny thing that I noticed, and I'm sure a lot of people have noticed this, I don't know. The 2020 year seemingly has some serious QA issues, quality issues. I don't know. I didn't check the on Halliburton, but just looking at LaMelo and Anthony Edwards, who are obviously the two more premier rookies from that year, LaMelo's pop on silver was like 200 something, which I thought was really low. Like there should have been way more submitted. So then I looked at Anthony Edwards, and he's got like 1,100, 1,200. And I don't think Anthony Edwards should be all that different. So then I looked at the entire picture. Anthony Edwards has between PSA 10 and PSA 9, like around 2,000, 2,500. So there's like 1,200 PSA 10s. There's like 1,200 PSA 9s. LaMelo has like 200 PSA 10s, and he's got like 1,200 PSA 9s.
Oh, interesting. So
the remaining 1,000 probably spilled into PSA 8s and PSA 7s. So just something to look out for. I think that year's silver quality is not great, and gem rates are not good. So that could be the case for Halliburton cards. It could be the case for LaMelo cards. Could be. I'm just saying, if you're a believer in LaMelo, or Halliburton,
right,
it could be a bit of a sneaky play, right?
Man, I was going to just say, for sure SGA after Hyung mentioned that his thing. And then after Johnny's, I'm like, oh, shoot, maybe Halliburton is the play. No, I'm sticking with SGA. Canada is my tiebreaker.
I'm with you, Clark. I think I'm going to go SGA on this one because, he's dropping 30 a game, and his prices are similar to Halliburton's right now. It's not far off.
And I think he's got like 3 or 4 buzzer beating game winners this year.
And SGA is still 24 years old. It's ridiculous. He's super, super young. Halliburton's 21 or 22. So you're not talking about, I just think SGA has accomplished so much more. Even OKC, San Antonio's hurting. There's no, I look forward to kind of whereas OKC is kind of like that borderline playoff team. Can SGA take OKC to the playoffs, right? This is his kind of test, right? Obviously, if he continually fails and he shows that he's not winning, it's going to sit sideways for a long time. But I think he's made huge strides this year. He's a legit scorer this year, and he's not even leading the league, which is crazy, at 30 plus points a game. That kind of just shows you where the game's going to. But,
right.
Yeah, I'm SGA for sure over Halliburton. Halliburton has to do a little more for me to commit to him at those prices, even though the pop count is lower. Yeah.
I'm curious to see how this 1v1 would do for our neighbors down south, because I'm about to go SGA. Could be completely a Canadian bias, but I think it's pretty close. I mean, there's very much, like I was talking about Halliburton before, I think both of these guys are studs. Clearly, a lot of their stats, like Halliburton's injured right now, but a lot of the stats are showing how awful the team is without him. So I think for me, the tiebreakers, there's the Canadian bias tiebreaker is SGA is super liquid at our card shows. So that's one Canadian bias. And in the second, I think tiebreaker, and it's not so much a bias, I think this is a legitimate tiebreaker, is OKC could be sneaky good next year, man, with Chet coming back. Who knows what type of monster pick they get this year, if it's Wemby or whoever it is. So they could be a sneaky good team as soon as next year, in the next couple of years, certainly with all these first round picks. SGA is being underrated because I would assume one of the biggest factors is he's on a crap team that doesn't get any notice. So that could all change in the next year or two. So I think that for me, as much as the Canadian thing is a tiebreaker, that's also, I think, a pretty big tiebreaker in this case.
Yep, good point. I like it. All right, I'll put a poll out there too when this episode comes out. We'll see if it's our Canadian bias that's getting in the way.
Yeah, be interested.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. All right, we'll wrap up the show with my pick one. And we talked about it before. We talked about both these guys before. Because the Super Bowl is coming up, I thought I'd stay with football. Would you invest in Joe Burrow, his Silver Prism rookie, PSA 10, which is going for, and I think his pop count's just over 200, going for about 2K, right? Or would you go for Jalen Hurts, PSA 10 Silver Prism, pop counts just over 200, so similar pop counts, going for half of what Joe Burrow's going for, just over 1,000.
Damn.
This one's
wasn't
tough.
a Jalen Hurts card like $300-400
Yeah,
not too long
that's
ago?
why it's like
damn,
it's gone up definitely.
it has gone up.
Man, pop 200. Obviously, like I think Joe Burrow's the safer pick, but I don't like the silver at 2K. You know, and I probably you position this pick one probably because of that, right? It's like it's like, do you want to overpay for Jalen Hurts, which was $400 like literally a couple months ago, right? And then but that's why I feel like the true prices of silver at pop 200 of those type of players will be, you know, I would say anywhere from $500 to $1,000. I would say that should be the probably more corrected price range. So for me, I think Burrow is way up there, like way up there. And like for you to make money off of that 2K, I think it's like very, very slim. Like he would have to win the Super Bowl for that to happen, right? Whereas Jalen Hurts right now, he has a chance to do something special. So the odds of him right now compared to, well, by the time this releases, technically that would be next week. Yeah, so we'd still have a little bit of time. So so Jalen Hurts would be my pick at 1K. Okay. Yeah.
What's the low? Do you guys know what the lowest the Burrow has gone down to? The Silver Prism. What's the low on that Silver Prism? Like 1,500?
I could check while you think about it. The lowest it's gone for is about 1225 October of last year.
1225. Oh, man. I think it was about to be a very easy Joe Burrow pick for me. Because you guys know how I am with Jalen Hurts. But Hyung just flipped the script on me. I think, you know, the previous segment, these were both sells. So I still am a firm belief, given the position now, if I had to buy these two cards, they're both sells. But I want to pick Joe Burrow because that's who I actually legitimately believe in. But I'm going to side with Hyung. And I think both are going to go down probably. But at least Jalen Hurts, there is that upside if he wins, right? So if I'm going to lose, if the Jalen Hurts is 1,000 and in the offseason it's going to correct to $500, I'm going to lose $500. But at least there's a chance it can go to 1,500 and I can sell it. The Joe Burrow, I see it going back to 1,200 to 1,350 to 1,490. I could. I'll probably lose the same amount of money, but there's no upside from here to when that price goes down. So as much as I don't want the Jalen Hurts card, from an investment standpoint, at least there is some sense. I think both of these cards you're gonna lose money regardless, but at least there's a chance to make some money.
Every time. He's like,
yeah.
These are both bad buys. I just wanted to put it out there. And then now he's gonna flip the script. He's gonna say, therefore I picked Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I'm waiting for it. So it's Joe Burrow.
Oh man, that would be a classic move, but no, I'm gonna do Jalen Hurts.
Okay.
Because at least there's a chance for it to go up. So of the two losses, I'm picking Jalen Hurts.
But I'm going to choose Joe Burrow.
Yeah, exactly.
I hear you guys, but I don't know if I believe too much in Joe Burrow. Like I'm looking at his low was 1225, right? But it went as high as 5100 or so.
Jeez.
Right? So, and then the 2000 was the last sold mark. Sold for 2800 was a sale right before that. So it's already going down. I think it could go up. I 200 pop count for both isn't that bad for a silver prism, right? I don't think, so I get it if it was the Luka silver, which I have, and I'm trying to I think I'm going to sell it for, right now Luka's playing well. So I think there's a baseline, but the pop count is it's up there. You know what I mean? It's not 200. It's like 2,000, right? So if that was the case, I would think differently. But a 200 pop count for a silver prism of Joe Burrow's talent and caliber, I think it could go back up. I agree with you. In the short term, they're both going down. How
Clark,
far down?
I'm gonna just give you, and maybe this might not change anything. The last Patrick Mahomes silver PSA 10 sold for $37.50.
What's the pop count on that? Do you know?
It's 907. But remember, this was not technically the silver. It was just the prism.
Right.
Prism, I believe.
That's the base.
So just put it into context there.
Sure.
If it was pick 3, I would choose Mahomes. But because it's if it was 3 cards instead of the 2 that we're debating. But damn, that does put a wrench. That's going to be a touchdown. I was going to say slam dunk choice, but since we're talking football,
and it's that sideways for the last 3 months. Actually, on a downward trend, just slightly.
We're talking the Mahomes right now.
Yeah, the Mahomes, high at 4,800 at November, and the low went down to basically 3,400. So it's pretty sideways. I'd say 48 to 34 in general.
I'm going Joe Burrow. I can see Jalen Hurts going back down to 5. And I don't think it's going to go past 1,000. I'm thinking what you're buying at is what you're going to get.
The Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's baked in right now. Whereas Joe Burrow, I think he's got a shot. I think he's got a shot at a better career than Jalen Hurts. So that's what I'm going with. High risk, high reward for this pick one. All right, you guys almost got me to change my mind 3 times in that conversation. All right, that wraps up this show of Cards to the Moon. Thanks once again for all our listeners, subscribers. We always appreciate the kind feedback. And if you haven't given us a 5-star rating and you enjoyed the show, we definitely appreciate that. You could listen to the podcast wherever it's out, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. And if you have a question for us, just email us to hello@fivecardguys.com, or you could DM us on our Instagram page at Cards to the Moon, all one word. All right, we'll see you again next week for a brand new show. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.